Hello, every pony. How are you doing out there in post-apocalyptia? Woo! It has been a great week for me. Finally, after months and months of work, ever since meeting the L Train at Everfree Northwest last year, we have been working on the new symphonic metal opera, and I am so excited. I cannot get across how excited I am. Which isn't, as those of you who've seen the announcement already know, it's not Fallout Equestria, but I'm very personally invested in this, this kind of a thing. So, we're gonna roll it on in. We're just gonna shove it in the back of the B-36 Crusader nuclear-powered aircraft, and we're just gonna keep on going. We've got nuclear-powered endless high-flying content for the immediate future. So, I thought it's a great way to start a Friday night with a little bit of celebration of that. And the music in the background, which I'm thinking now maybe you haven't been hearing as well. I don't know how it's sounding on the back end. I'm controlling the dials separately. Oh, also, got me here a nice Coca-Cola out of the glass bottle. Not just regular either, it's south of the border Coca-Cola, because up in the States we only have the stupid crappy high fructose corn syrup, which is all just to save a cheap buck. It's not even a law or nothing. So you get the Mexican brand that they sell up here. It's perfect. Got the classical cane sugar, doesn't give me migraines. Perfect. So, yeah, how is everyone? And hello, that's our other major announcement that James handled this week. We have Wubby Dubby in the chat, who has joined our team, our production team for The Great Experiment, which is becoming really an even greater experiment than the actual, thing that it was about. It's amazing how much work is going into now the documentary on the demise of Stapletech, more so than the studio itself. Yeah, no, it was funny. Like, I really, like, when we were, like, writing our individual lines, like, answering the questions and stuff for The Great Experiment, I was reflecting, like, distilling all my time there, and I'm like, if I really, like, parse out all the things that later become just part of, Confessions work or Terminal Secrets work or whatever, it's like, it's amazing how much of it really got wrapped into that. And it's just because, especially for music and voice and sound, once my job was done, that was, like, all I could really do for the series itself, which, I've said many times before, but I believe the documentary is so much better in how it's going to wrap everyone's perspectives together and really lay out this nice, solid chronology. But yeah, we have Wubby Dubby making some incredible graphics and SFM animation for us. I almost said NSFW. That's not what I mean. Anyway, so hop on in, every pony, where we're gonna have some fun tonight. We're gonna just chill like we always do. This is just a BananaCast, there's no one else here. It's just me. We're just having a good time and enjoying each other. And see what else is going on in the world right now too. Like, I know there's rumors. I'm not sure if they're confirmed yet, but there's rumors that Fallout 76 might actually go free to play soon. Oof. I gotta tell you, if that actually happens within the first year of the game's launch, I think that would actually be a bigger black mark on Bethesda, because it would be, not only would it betray everyone who did shell out money for this, including me, but it would also be this total admission of failure in the sense that, like, well, again, it would just be a double betrayal. It's like, then everyone who did pay for it feel like they got scammed even more so. And, how many more people would they honestly really bring in by making it free to play at this point? The game has such a dark aura hanging over it as it is that it's really hard to fathom. Why is this all funky? I'm just noticing the there we go. Windows all out of adjustment. There we go. Okay, so as I referenced slightly earlier with that joke, what you're seeing in the background is actually an NB36, as in November Bravo 36, and that is a one-of-a-kind experimental transcontinental nuclear-powered bomber aircraft. You can't see it from Celestia's fat ass in the image, but there's actually this big swollen section up front where a nuclear reactor core is being stored and powering the aircraft. It was a dangerous experiment, and I'm trying to remember what they did with it. I think they ended up just burying it. But anyway, they flew it out of like West Texas, so it's it's probably fine. There's not a lot out of West Texas, but yeah, it did end up getting chopped to pieces. They couldn't even put this in a museum because the whole body of the plane was just so radioactive. No matter how much they tried to properly shield everything. As part of a that's one of the most fascinating things about Cold War technology. It's one of the many, many facets of all this stuff rolled in together for me. Is the Cold War had so many phases of the space race and of, the arms race of developing the most powerful, kill the Russians or kill Americans device you could come up with, that a lot of stuff got left in the dust really quickly. Like, for instance, propeller planes. As soon as jet aircraft became more affordable and feasible, no one was using propeller planes anymore, except for, not novelty's sake, but it's sort of for power, low power usage, which is why the Russian, the Tu-90 still has those, what's the term? Counter rotary propellers on the front of its jet engines, and that's just for gliding essentially. It's make the aircraft go a longer range, because that's one of their long range bombers. That's right. # Solar Empire. No, this isn't a B-29. This is a B-36 consolidated aircraft B-36 Peacemaker. It was again, as I'm saying, a very short-lived. This is the Homo erectus of aircraft, where it was a transitionary form before they got full-on jets going. So this was the first fully transcontinental nuclear-capable bomber that still had propellers. So you could see from behind Celestia's fat ass that it's got 3 propellers on each wing, pointing in the back of the aircraft, and it's pretty sweet. It was pretty sweet. See, that was in the 50s. That's why the Fallout games bring out such a quality sort of nostalgic snapshot of the Cold War. Is the 1950s were when a lot of this stuff was still in development. So it's between the end of World War, 2 of 3 and and the Cuban Missile Crisis is where a lot of really crazy shit happened. That's when they didn't have a full understanding of the long-term fallout of nuclear weapons usage, and so people were just kind of going crazy and doing awesome shit. And also their aircraft is significant too, because supposedly the Russians are still trying to get their own Project Pluto nuclear rocket engine going, which is different from this. From the plane you're seeing, the Crusader. They literally called it the Crusader. We are the Nuki-Mark Crusaders. In this case, it was just a small nuclear battery, essentially, power plant for the airplane. Whereas the case of Project Pluto and the Russian equivalent is the reactor itself is used as the heating agent for heating up all the good juices and creating that good burn, as well as being the power plant for the aircraft. # extra thick sun butt ass. Oh yeah, that's right. The Tu-4 copied the entire left wing of the B-29 they were given. Yeah, I mean, yeah, the Russians and the Chinese did that. When you can't innovate, you imitate. That's a good shortcut to catching up in technology. And I mean, it's worked so far. So I mean, I don't know. Obviously, of course, they each individually have innovated in different ways themselves, but that's that all's fair in love and war, man. You get your enemy's weapons and you start copying that shit. I mean, no one wants to talk about where rocket technology comes from, do they? What country was von Braun born in? Yeah. So anyway, that's always fun. It's always good to have a little Cold War history lesson. Anyway, no, I got to see the non-nuclear version of this too. They're hard to find, but there's one of these on display in an air museum in California, so that's pretty cool. What is our podcast about today? It's essentially I'm really excited about the the Pillars of Equestria, the symphonic metal opera, and also a lot of other stuff going on. Because since Christmas, I finished yet another section of Confessions 8 as well, and that's when we rolled over the halfway point, what I know in my mind is the halfway point in the story, and that's when I recorded it and realized that we're 2.5 hours in, so oof, that's gonna be 5 hours, isn't it? It might not. There might be a chance it's scaled back to 4.5. It just comes out the way. The speed of the performance, final editing I might do, changes I might make in the sort of the transition between Act 2 and 3. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, it's all over the place. Yeah, so that's essentially the point. And then, of course, what Wubby mentioned with the Great Experiment is we have major nuclear-powered engines pushing the content plane forward. And so, hence the theme. Also, I feel like it's been about a year since the Cannibalism Wasteland Survival Guide, which was all black and white. It's I don't know. It's kind of in the mood to do black and white again. It's neat, Got to mix up the graphics sometimes. Make it fresh for all the peoples. And anything else going on in the world? I guess I don't really know what else is going on. Still cold. I mean, it's not that cold. It's actually nicer now. We just had a bunch of rain, which means it's usually warmer after rain. Like for California, the coldest points are always once we go through the fall and just after Christmas, where it's been dry for the most part, like just bone dry, fire dry, and then like 1 or 2 scattered rains we got. But there's always the coldest point in like early January when it's just been so dry that there are no other pressure systems or nothing. So all of the ground heat is just gone. But then we got like 2 weeks of sustained rain for the last 2 weeks or so. So we got those greenhouse gases churning again. We're holding that ground heat. So it's a more tepid 55 or what is that in C? Like 15 C? There you go. Yeah. I see. Of course I had to learn metric because it's an engineering major. Of course I learned metric, but in day-to-day life, like thinking about things in metric is still a little whack. Mostly for temperature. I mean, I'm sure it's all really just a slow process of like converting essentially the public access goods over, there's a push for that in the 70s where they kind of made like a half push where then you got things in like milliliters. It was mainly liquids. It's like sodas and stuff got into like milliliters and things like that for the most part. It's like that they still put the imperial like measurement is still the colloquial term, but it's just one of those things. It's one of those unfortunate hangovers. I actually read something about how, like, despite his very blatant Francophobia, that apparently it was Thomas Jefferson who was like, not gonna do metric right now, which is really funny. I don't know what made him come to that decision, because he, like, spent years in France as, like, an ambassador and stuff. I think that was Jefferson. Anyway, and, but probably when the Revolutionary Republic didn't work out so well and they went all Napoleon, maybe he's like, oh, okay, we'll hold off on metric for a little while. They couldn't even get their 10-day, their decimal calendar going right. So, yeah, it's it's funny. No, it's really funny. It's like people think like we don't know the metric system. It's like no, all the sciences, all the all the important stuff. It's still there's metric everywhere. Of course, it's just in our case, it just made school a little harder because we did have to learn in dual systems, which is kind of frustrating. But I can't imagine it's any more frustrating than like I don't know. Maybe you're Canadian and you have to learn English and Quebecois or something like that. So. It could always be worse. Yeah, so, do you think the Brony fandom will survive MLP crashes and reboots? My personal opinion is that the Brony fandom exists in Gen 4, period. It is everything that it was in the global sense, in the, the royal we, the we. Is Gen 4. And when Gen 4 ends, there will be a significant, like, hill, so to speak. Like sort of like, you have the after party, and then people will disperse and go their own way, so to speak. But, like, just like with Star Trek, you had, the original Star Trek fans, like my mom, it's, this is a nerd pedigree there. Yeah, there were those that went to like the early conventions and stuff and all that, but then when Star Trek: The Next Generation came out, they were sort of like, okay, they sort of they revisited every once in a while, and if they bumped into Shatner, they grabbed him and whatnot, but otherwise they just you go on to the rest of your life. You maybe find a new fandom or something. Whereas for the Next Generation people, that was kind of their own thing too, where they had the Next Generation, all those filthy Gen Xers, and that was theirs. And then they, when Deep Space Nine or Enterprise or whenever the other ones came out, then Next Generation were like, well, wait a minute, where's Captain Picard? Can we get some more Picard, please? I mean, how are we supposed to have Star Trek without and then of course you have people like Mike Stacasa, where they're all Star Trek of every age ever, except for the brand new ones. Anyway, my point being that the Brony fandom, as we know it, only exists as an expression, as a collective expression of Generation 4. So when Generation 5 starts, that will, in a way, that will be regression to mean. That will be when, the show for little girls becomes mainly about little girls again. So what I'm saying is enjoy it. Ride this out, because it's I don't think the fandom, even what it is now, I think of what we're in right now is like the plateau point. This is after all the initial like super zeal of everything was so new and so fresh and so crazy between like 2011 and like 2013, 2014, something like that. It's like as soon as that was like, really, as soon as like Twilight became Princess or whatever, or like, middle of season 4, it felt like we hit a plateau. It seemed like everyone in the greater internet that was going to be in the fandom was in for the most part or back out. And then like the flow rate in and out became equivalent. And then we've been sitting on this like platform of a certain quantity of fandom. And then Starlight Glimmer, as a lot of people credit, she gave it that extra life. And then, of course, Sunset Shimwim. Once we had Rainbow Rocks to give Sunset Shimmer a real solid character arc and potential future in her own little series, it's its own thing. And so I think that's what we're in right now. Yes, season 8 is over now. I have yet to watch. Season 8 finale. I know I should, but it's like at the same time I feel like I need to have a Shirley Temple for when I watch it. So I've yet to do that. Elon Musk is a killer robot. It's either Elon Musk is a killer robot or he will develop a killer robot at some point. Although he seems like the opposite. He seems like he's very afraid of AI technology and whatnot. And I've sort of made my point on that already, where I don't think robot sentience is possible. Just flat out. Like I don't think it's something that can happen, not under current circumstances anyway. Maybe down the road, maybe if we do get into like quantum computing or something at some point, but I know a lot of people are like panic button now. It's like the only problem with automated systems now is the people who flip the switch, so to speak. What are the most evil AI out there in the current world? It's the algorithms. It's the AI sitting inside of YouTube and Twitter that just mass bans people or wipes certain people off the internet wholesale. So I don't know. It's like a Skynet type thing or like Terminator or whatnot. I don't really see it. No, not for anywhere soon. I'm kind of the same way with Aliens. You probably like really digging deep into like sci-fi potential. I'm probably more of I guess a Scully, you would say. Like I really. What is it called? The Fermi paradox? I'd sort of take that approach of it's like, they're really like, we should have found something by now, or something would have found us by now. It's like, if there are other aliens in the universe, that they're probably like way far outside our cluster, or they're less evolved from us, where we're the top right now. We're the first, living species to create rockets to leave our own planet. And even then, it's within our very tight-knit solar system. For all we know, there's no way to jump the speed of light. And if there's no warp 9 or whatnot, then the universe stays as distant and mythical as it always has been. Because, I mean, how many light years is it just to Proxima Centauri? How far away is Proxima Centauri? 4.24 light years. So, assuming crossing speed of light is impossible, you're not going to get a vehicle at the speed of light. So let's say you can get half. If you have a vehicle that can do half speed of light, that's still 10 years in one direction. That is a hell of a journey. And we're not even remotely close to that yet. So I don't know. I feel like space in the immediate centuries is probably going to be, the solar system. It's how good we are at creating, space-faring vehicles and industrial scale vehicles, like, to make it lucrative. A very large, USG Ishimura or whatever, to crack open some asteroids and mine those for raw materials. That's space for humanity's, existence for right now. I mean, down the road, of course, who knows? For all we know, we discover an alloy of, unobtainium, or isotope of unobtainium that you electrocute it and it speeds up faster than light or something. Who knows? But right now, that's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying is I think in a way we're sort of drunk off of the technological progress, that we're not like a lot of walls have already come up in certain areas, and we're still so used to, because you look at a century ago or a century and a half ago, it's like, it's insane how many things are different. When the train was the fastest mode of travel in existence, and now we have, not only faster trains, but we have rockets and cars and planes and all sorts of crazy shit. I think we're in an age where there has been such an acceleration of technological advancement that now we're gonna plateau again. That now it's like after the agricultural revolution. It's like, okay, you got farms figured out, but that still means you have to have like 2,000 years of Bronze Age civilization first, and then you have to have a total global societal collapse, and then the Greek Dark Ages, and then you get Greek philosophy, and then that's like kind of something new, and so that gets going, and then the Roman Empire gets going, and then that's like stage 2 or 5 or whatever. Anyway, what were we talking about? Oh yeah, back to ponies. I hate Starlight. Yeah, I mean, not everyone is a Starlight fan, so that was definitely a separation in the fandom as well. Also, Pony ruined changelings and thorax. Yeah, the colorful changelings thing, I was a bit I'm not sure of at the beginning, but I guess it's sort of settled out. It's sort of fine. But you gotta have both sides. You gotta like maintain some level of Queen Chrysalis. Or like now that she's at this like dejected point. I mean, the last time we saw her was that embarrassing mid-season episode where she has like a nervous breakdown and creates clones of the main six, and then like nothing happens. It's like, I don't know. She's gotta have like, well, I guess it'd be like what, a third redemption or whatever, or not a redemption, but like, I don't know. It can't be the end for her. She's got to play some other role. I mean, her by herself is very magically powerful and a changeling. So it's like, you know, something else is going to happen. Even if she ends up becoming a Tempest-like, secondary villain for, like, the end game, like, end series villain. Maybe. Maybe that's what it'll be. And she'll know enough about the main six that it's sort of like the role she played in that one episode. She's just, like, communicating their powers and information to them. Yeah, that's right. Midlife crisis chrysalis. I mean, it was a fun episode. I did like it, but it was, again, one of those things where it's like, okay, if you're bringing her in to have her own, not like Discord per se, because he's reformed, you know, in his little flurry of episodes, but it's like, if you're going to make her like a Team Rocket villain now, then give us some more. Then give us a good, you know, helping of 4 or 5 episodes a season, which, you know, we might only have 1 or 2 seasons left. So it's like, you know, make the best of whatever she is. Anyway, yeah, so we're just we're hanging out. We're doing 1 second. I gotta change my air. Okay, that was it's like then you close the door for a second and immediately the house starts warming up again. It's like I have enough LEDs in my bulbs that this shouldn't be happening, but whatever. Chrysalis is pretty desperate now. I can see her easily being played by Cozy. That's right. The finale is Cozy glows in Tartarus now, right? So it's like, see what happens there. I don't know. I probably have to see the finale before I can make a proper judgment on that, though. Anyway, so yeah, I guess that's sort of the main stuff I wanted to cover. I guess I can't talk too much about it, but I'm just really excited for the Pillars of Equestria. That's gonna be so. It's gonna be so great. We've been working on this so long too. It was during the same time as development of the proper production of Confession 7, which is why it took sort of the whole summer. I was going back and forth doing all this nonsense, and so it really tore my time in several pieces. But final result's gonna be so good. Cozy becomes Thanos and recreates the universe a la Generation 5. How about the final villain is like an Akira character, and then the villain, it basically goes what's his name, Takeshi, whatever, you know, the bad guy in Akira, yeah, you know, the guy that ends up becoming his own universe and whatnot. That would kind of be cool. I'm not sure if they would rip something off like that so directly, but that would kind of be an interesting way to bridge the 2 generations. And then they wake up and they're in the different art style and everything. That could be kind of fun. I don't know. Yeah, I really don't know what they're gonna do. I know I've heard some rumors about it in I don't know. I've heard so many different rumors, and I don't know if any of them are true. Some of them really just look like not fantasies, but I don't know, just just like theories. Yeah, you know, like just random theories about like, whoa, what if they do this or what if they do this? And I'm like, I have no idea. So it's just, I don't think it'll matter. I'll be honest. I really don't see the fandom like grappling onto a new series, especially if they're just rebooting the characters. It's like, you know, it's going to be a clone. It's going to be, oh, this is new Twilight, you know? I don't know if, well, it's not going to work, I'm sure, the way... I don't think they expect it to work the same way anyway. I think they expect to bring it back into the stable, so to speak. They're taking back the franchise for target demographic. Because it really was sort of like... I don't know. It was so sudden and overwhelming the way the Brony thing just sort of took over the entirety of the show. Like, you know, they were just like sort of firing randomly and seeing, you know, what would stick. And then all of a sudden there's this giant fandom and there's all this music and pictures and fanfics and other stuff. And, it's just like, I couldn't imagine... I would love, I'll be honest, that's a documentary I'd love to see. I'd love to see a documentary of the start of the Brony phenomenon from the perspective of Hasbro and DHX and all of the like studio and executive people. You know, I want the first I want the interview about the first time, like, you know, whatever, like VP of marketing was like, yeah, so I was scrolling, you know, Facebook one night and I saw our new Pinkie Pie version in a meme and I was like, what is this? And then suddenly I found a whole website full of them. You know, that would be fascinating. I would love to see someone track down all of those executives and Lauren Faust and all of them and just like get their like first impressions of what happened there and then their perspective over the course of the entire fandom and show. Because it's a hell of a thing. I mean, you really think like an alternate universe, like it could have been any other show that like grappled onto. Like for instance, there's the reboot of DuckTales just happened, and that is a good show. It's very quality made and assembled. You definitely feel the care someone put into it as someone who was probably a fan of the old show and whatnot. It could have easily been that with DuckTales. You know, just a whole fandom and the whole expanded universe and yeah, all that good stuff. But yeah, of everything, it ended up being My Little Pony. It's like the most random fucking thing ever. Oh yeah, no, I know about the history with Fortunes and everything. The comics and cartoons board getting all mad at stupid Amid Amidi because he was like ragging on it thinking, oh, this is the end of creator-driven era of animation. It's like, because the article was just the fakest of fake news where it was just this like, oh, now they're bringing back the 80s, you know, the series, you know, because a lot of the 80s shows were essentially created to like market toys or candy or whatnot. So I was like, oh no, here we go again. We're starting with these again. And it ended up being just such the total opposite. Like, it was almost like the opposite of a self-fulfilling prophecy. It's like his impression of what it would be, like, ensconced so many people who were fans of Lauren Faust shows anyway, and Craig McCracken, her husband, that they were like, oh, we're gonna give it a chance, because fuck you. And then they watched the first few episodes, and they're like, it really is a Lauren Faust show. And then they watched the whole fucking season, and here we are 9 years later. Oh my god. It is incredible. I really like... It is so strange. And I guess for me, maybe being like part of something like this that happened in such a way that I was like, I guess something I caught on the ground floor of too. I'm usually way behind in terms of like I don't know, music and fan like thing. I feel like I'm always out of sync with greater pop culture. Right? I'm always sitting in a niche somewhere, and then I catch up to things that are like 5 years old once it's like, I don't know, retro again or something. So this is something I was like almost like with from the beginning, at least in terms of the fandom now, especially. So yeah, it's been a hell of a ride. Yeah. We do have, I could make the announcement. announcement, but it's like we have put in for Everfree Northwest and BabsCon, so hopefully they both take us back. I know I'm saving money so we can make it back to both, but it's another one of those things where it's like, if we don't have a panel, it's not, it's not enough for me to go if we don't have a panel and like a whole EAST Corp thing to do there. Not enough to just visit, you know, for fun, so to speak. So I'm really hoping we should get the panels again. I know we've been at Everfree a couple times, and we've been at BabsCon pretty consistently the last 2 years, 3 years. Oh my god, it's been a while, that's for sure. 2 years, yeah. Hey, Roy Mustang in the chat. Yeah, so hopefully we will be at those two again. I know last time I talked to her, Needle still seemed somewhat interested in going to the last BronyCon. I know I only made it that once in 2014, and I'm probably not going to BronyCon no matter what. So I'll probably put that out there just for me. But there's a chance she and her you know, her dick is gonna be there. Our lovely voice actor for Harvest Orange, our CEO. So there's a chance you'll see them there if anyone's East Coaster. Yeah, I was kind of sad I never made it to an Everfree. Equestria LA, when it sort of came back after being gone for a few years, and then it was over again. And then there was the 1 year of High Roller PonyCon, because it's like, High Roller PonyCon, apparently not many people remembered Unicon, but I did. That was a total shit show when that happened, and that wounded the fandom, because then the Hasbro employees and a lot of the show people and like VAs and stuff, they were so upset. You know, that was like the DashCon for the bronies. It was such a bad disaster that a lot of them sort of spurned the fandom for a year. There was like a whole year where Tara Strong just kind of stopped talking about it and stuff like that. You know, it was interesting. I would say, yeah. And then there was the Derpy thing. It's like, yeah, somewhere after all of those is when the plateau happened. When a lot of those controversies happened and then resolved. It was like, you know, it was like a river hitting rocks, and then the trickle, like whatever was left, that was the purified fandom. Yeah, Unicon. See, no one knows. Unicon 2013. You can still look it up in the Equestria Daily archives. It was a convention run in Las Vegas, a Pony Las Vegas convention. And like all this crazy shit happened, like Nicole Oliver, you know, Celestia and stuff. Sunbutt Princess was like left at the airport, and Tara Strong and them, like none of them were compensated for their stay. Like they were all supposed to, you know, get paid for showing up and stuff, and have their rooms comped and you know, food and stuff. And like none of that happened. Like the people took the money and disappeared, just like with DashCon. And I guess because it was so insular to the early Brony community, then when DashCon happened, I thought Rainbow Dash. And I'm like, is this just another scam Brony convention? But then, you know, later you find all the stories of DashCon and Tumblr and all that. Obviously, reference the Internet Historian's video for a nice summation of DashCon. The angle of the plane looks lewd. I mean, yeah. It's funny, actually, the Celestia logo I use for this, it definitely almost could be like nose art from World War II. It's a very similar sort of positioning to what World War II plane nose art used to do. Those were the fun days when you could just have ridiculous cartoons like that on your airplanes. It's funny when you walk old Air Force museums and stuff too. You see some risque stuff, and there's some museum websites that'll show you like, okay, so this was the original version with the uncovered nipples, and then here's the cleaned up version for, you know, for the museum. When we repainted the airplane, we just, you know, you added a bra or something, and it's just, man, it was a different time. It's a different time. Yeah, they dashed at DashCon. Yes, they did. And Unicon, where all the emphasis was on the con. Oh, man. Yeah, so anyway, I thought High Roller PonyCon would be another Unicon, another big scam. So, besides, I didn't hear about it until it was, like, almost put on. So, I couldn't make it to that. And then it turned out to not be a scam. But then at the same time, they were like, okay, that was fun. We're good now. We're done. So, one time, as all right. Yeah, it will be interesting, though. I definitely, I sense a, what's the right word? Condensation? Convergence? Convergence, probably a better word. Where, you know, at the fandom, once the show ends, there will still be, like, the couple of main conventions, like, probably Everfree or Midwest or whatever, you know, some of the bigger ones that have been around a while that aren't officially shuttering, like BronyCon. They'll stay around probably indefinitely, as long as they can, I mean, really, as long as they can draw crowds. That's all you really need. You look at some of the really early, like, furry conventions and stuff from, like, you know, the 90s and before then, and there's, you know, it's like 3,000 people average. It's like, you know, a lot of Brony conventions have had over 3,000 people each. Oh, that's right. There's a HarmonyCon, which I don't know about. Where is HarmonyCon? I've seen some fan artwork from people about, like, oh, HarmonyCon, people who are going to HarmonyCon, people who are not going to HarmonyCon. And it's like, yeah. So it's good that there's, like, localized, and then in, like, Europe you've got Galacon, which seems like that's like the greater EU convention, I guess. I'm not sure of any others in Europe. Dallas, okay. Oh my God, they're having a oh wait, it's like this month, right? Or next month? Yeah, okay, yes, that's smart. I was gonna say, a Dallas convention in the summer? That sounds like a fucking nightmare. No, but February in Dallas, that's a good time for a convention. That's like, that way, you know, everyone in costume walking around doesn't immediately die from heat exhaustion. Oh man, Texas is way too humid for me. Every time I'm passing through Texas, it's always like, oh my gosh. It's just this, like, funnel of pure saturation between the Mississippi and like Central Texas, something like that. When you look at, like, a climate map of Texas, it really is, like, drawn down the middle. You know, you draw a line from Amarillo to Brownsville, and everything to the east is the southeast, you know, the Gulf hellscape, and then everything to the west is the dry Sonoran Mojave hellscape. So, you know, you gotta choose your hellscapes wisely. Oh yeah, Nightmare Nights. I remember Nightmare Nights as well. That was the big horse con in Texas for a while, right? Yeah, I'm also not quite feeling a Project Horizons tonight either. I'm sorry, guys. It's it's fun. It is fun, but it's like, it's also, I guess it's the futility. I know we're never going to be able to get the whole thing out there, and it's like, it's fun in the sense of reading fanfics, but I liked the you know, I like the what the fic, because it's random fanfics and they're all a little different and they're all nice little, like, nugget of humor of whatever we, you know, of whatever we improvise based on audience demands, which is always fun. Hopefully we'll have another one of those soon. I'll talk to Needle and we'll see if we can set up a time where we both know we'll have a good chunk of time aside and can plan our various audio recording sessions around it as well. Because it does take me out for, like, a good day or two, I'll be honest. Trolling for the Mojave always does make you wish for a nuclear winter wonderland. Project Horizons was an emotional roller coaster. Yes, it was. Apparently, like I said, I've only read the little various pieces, but from what I've heard, and I have to admit that each chapter is fairly well contained. It feels almost episodic. Episodic in the way of, like, episodic in, like, I'm not sure a good analogy, but it does feel like every chapter has a good beginning, middle, and end, and then that fits within the greater story. Sort of like how I try to write Confessions, but we'll, very different format and everything. Yeah, that's right. 2 million words. It is literally one of the longest books ever written. Yeah, it's pretty crazy. You look at the I think we've done this once on a stream, right? Where we looked at like all of the longest books ever written, and it's literally insane when you bring fan fiction into it how much more those are. Longest written works. Oh yeah, and then of course the longest written work of all time is the damn Subspace Emissaries World's Conquest, the Super Smash Brothers fan fiction. Amazing, absolutely amazing. I just love it. Definitions, yeah. So of course in strictest definitions, they're going for novel here because, if you took a lot of things like series or novels, like you could probably boost it up to higher numbers. On the list, you have Le Homme de Bonne Volonté, some kind of French something, which is 27 volumes, so I'd almost put an asterisk by that. The English title Men of Goodwill. Second longest, also French, again, I'm butchering these, Termine ou le Grand Cyprus. Cyrus. Both of those are 2 million, by the way. Then the third one is Dutch, Het Bureau, which is 1.5 million. So already we're lower than Project Horizons. So that's fun. It's really fun. Let's see. Where do we get into something that like pop culture would be familiar with? I haven't heard of any of these. Okay, here's Les Mis, Victor Hugo. Again, French. These Frenchies, man. You guys got a lot of time on your hands. Les Mis by Victor Hugo, 6.5 650,000 words. So basically the same length as Fallout Equestria, if you wanna start the comparisons there. And then oh god, Atlas Shrugged. It's also about 650,000. And then Jerusalem by Alan Moore. I've never heard of that. Let's see. What's the next one? And that's the end of that list. Okay. Is there different so this is saying by novel length. So let's see if there's I found a similar list that like tallied things differently. Let me see if I can find that. Longest piece of literature. It was another, I think it was another Wikipedia page where like longest novels. Let's just go ahead and Google longest fan fictions. Fan fictions. It's all just about damn Subspace Emissary. Okay, never mind then. Fine. Don't take me back to that article. Because anyway, Homestuck got mentioned in one of those longest like written work lists that I found. Because when like you tally all the various Homestuck like pieces together, it works out to a really long thing. So anyway. Let's see here. Yeah, that's right. There's a load of other pony fan fictions as well. Pink Eyes was funny, but also strange. Yeah, I read half of Pink Eyes. It was interesting, and as I've mentioned before, my only real problem with it is that I understand writing for children is hard, but it feels too much like Puppy Smiles goes from between like 4 years old and 12 years old at times. It's sort of this like disparity of intelligence and disparity of like, I guess, verbal competence. I'm not sure what the right word would be. Because really, if you write a character that is younger than like 8 or something, like then they're not they're almost not fully a character, you know? They're more of an object because they don't have that complex of thought. They don't have, you know, their impressions of the world are very animal-like, where they're just taking things in a very visceral, emotional way, you know? Yeah, so it's something else. Yeah, haven't read Heroes either. I've actually been listening to more other audiobooks, regular books. I do listen to regular books too because I'm still finishing Confessions. I that's another thing. I don't want to pull from other fanfics either by accident or be like, oh, someone already did this. It's like, no, I want to just do my version of this, which is fine, taking my time, but I'm doing my version of all these things. That's right, cream pies for everyone. Yeah, but I guess speaking of fan fiction, circling back to Confession. So even if 8 does end up being the longest one yet, it will probably be the longest one ever. I don't see the episode after it being longer than either that or the other ones. I don't know. We'll see. But I really see this as definitely, if it is the longest, it will stay the longest. Let's just put it that way. But it is worth it. It's a really neat story. I think it's gonna be fun. I think people are gonna like our new character and all the stuff they do. Oh, and we have Lil Pip in chat herself. Hello, Lil Pip. Has it only been 50 minutes? Wow. It feels like it's already been an hour and a half. I don't know. Maybe we're just jumping topics too quickly. Is there anything specifically anyone wants to talk about? It's always open forum, obviously. It's mainly me just like, I have other stuff to do, but I also just want to like chat, so to speak, you know, I've talked about this before. The way creativity works, it's not an on-off button. Just because you have time doesn't mean you have a usable creative output. Everything, it's gotta bring it all together. You gotta have the right sort of feel, the right sort of mood, the right sort of energy, and then also have free time to do stuff. That's why, like, I remember on one of those what do they call that? The emotional or personality test chart things, where one of the questions was, when you do you do work in very like even segments of production, or is it very staggered where you'll do nothing for like a week and then you'll do a lot of stuff in one day? And I'm like, I'm definitely the second one, where a lot of my work just happens in giant spurts. Anyway, and then it ended up placing me at INTJ for whatever that's worth. Apparently I'm an architect, which I took offense to that at first because I'm like, I'm not an architect. I had to learn calculus. Architects don't have to learn calculus for the most part. So that's just a joke. But yeah. So anyway, hooray, INTJ, hooray for everything good and bad that comes with that. Oh yeah. Is there anything I'm forgetting with Fallout 76 news this week? I know we briefly tapped our briefs on the idea that Fallout 76 might become free to play soon, which is just so sad and funny at the same time. Another thing we could mention that Bethesda, apparently they're releasing some Fallout like Vault 76 leather jacket. And it was almost sad. I almost felt like the Simpsons meme of stop, he's already dead, where they beat the clown to death. And and every single reply to their post of the new leather jacket was, it's really nylon, isn't it? And there were all these like meme pictures of people posting like garbage bags with 76 written on it in like yellow Sharpie or highlighter or something. It was beyond savage. I almost felt bad for them and then they deleted it and they like made 3 or 4 posts, and every single time they reposted it, people were only getting like spicier takes on the fact that there's no way you're gonna deliver this leather coat as seen. And then, of course, some people stating, which I also feel bad on because of Stable Tech Days, where I know it's totally different departments, but there's some people saying, why are you working on a leather coat? Shouldn't you be focusing on fixing the name of the game, the namesake of the game first? Oh, man. It is so funny if it does become free to play, because I pre-ordered 76, and I hate myself for it. I thought we'd get a lot of great channel content out of it, and I guess we kind of did, but, you know, not in the way I expected. I expected we'd be able to do more sort of, like, live stream, like, you know, I don't know, I guess sort of an Oxhorn type thing, but collectively, but the structure of the game, the fact that it is sort of an MMO, it's like, you're at the very, very bottom, unless you put in all this chug time, and I'm like, it's too boring to chug. I don't want to work up the levels. It's nothing interesting in it for me. Fuck. So that was frustrating. Now, heck, I've started a brand new Fallout New Vegas playthrough. I'm on like my 7th New Vegas playthrough, which is fucking great. 9 years later, it's still the best Fallout game, Bethesda. And they made this in like 18 months also, something ridiculously short. And I'm like, it's so good. Just the writing is so tight, and all the characters and factions play a significant piece in the world and the story, and it's like, how? It just can't compare. Yeah, F for my wallet. My wallet has recovered, but no, that was not a smart financial decision on my part. But at least then I got the second copy because of the fires, and then ended up giving it to a friend, so that was kind of funny. Hello, every banana. We're still talking about 76, and some other stuff earlier that was kind of fun. Oh, another another oopsie that happened is, CD Projekt Red did an oopsie where apparently the lead writer of Cyberpunk 2077 is left for Blizzard? Are you kidding me? Like what the hell? Like, was this guy just like trying to get out for a while, and as soon as Blizzard offered him money, he took the opportunity? It's like, who would want to get on that ship right now? That's like a leper island of Activision. Everyone's still standing there, you know? You've got, like, Bungie swimming to shore, swallowing as many penicillin pills as it can to try to stand on its own 2 legs without crumpling into a mass of broken flesh. But no, apparently the CD Projekt Red lead writer, he's going the other way. He's on his lifeboat for Plague Island, and he's gonna get all nice and cozy with Blizzard there. Fucking idiot. Oh man, I don't know if they must have just offered him a really good salary, a really great like headhunter's bonus, so to speak. Because otherwise, it's like, I don't know. It seems like CD Projekt Red's the more ethical company, for lack of a better word. It seems like they give a damn about everything. So the fact that they would lose a lead writer, it really reflects poorly on someone. Whether it's that guy who just like, oh, I want to work at Blizzard because I played World of Warcraft 20 years ago and that was fun. Or something. I just don't know. I mean, even Overwatch is, like, come and gone. Like, pretty much as soon as Fortnite became the new meme game, you know, as soon as people had their fun with the Overwatch characters, it's like, it sort of fell off of the internet, like, presence. It's sort of, you know, in the background noise now, like Team Fortress 2 or something. It's like, why would you go toward that? I don't know. I don't know what is to be gained. Yeah, I really hope it doesn't destroy Cyberpunk either, because I'm really, really excited about Cyberpunk. I want it to be a good game. I want it to be one of the best cyberpunky things ever, because this is Cyberpunk year. This is the year that Blade Runner happens. This is the year that Akira happens, and it's like, oh, there's so much good stuff coming out and just came out in the last couple years. It's like, I want it to be good. I want it to keep going. I want to turn back time. The only other thing that could really stack on this now is Batman Beyond. If somehow they brought back Batman Beyond and it felt the way it was in the 90s, but, you know, like modern, you know, HD, you know, 4K definition and whatnot, but it's Batman Beyond, that would be awesome. That would be really awesome. Anyway, yeah, so Cyberpunk 2077. Yeah, but the main reason I'm upset is, of course, like, the main writing of the game is probably long done, you know, when they started programming characters and models and everything, but what about new content? What about DLCs or expansions or a sequel or something? I don't know. I'm less than enthused that they're losing their lead writer. Now, on the other hand, it could be like a Fallout situation where the lead writer of Fallout 4 and I guess also Fallout 76 and like Elder Scrolls or whatnot, he's like kind of an asshole. Like, have you heard this? I've heard this float around in a few other internet commentaries or documentaries or whatnot, where like the main lead writer guy, who's like, I don't know, apparently he just has this really weird take on writing, and a lot of people credit the poor execution of the story in Fallout 3 and 4 to him. So I don't know if that's true or not. That's just like, is literally just a rumor. If anyone wants to update my gossip in the chat for that, we can expand on that if you know more than me. Cyberpunk 2077, Mech Warrior, Mechanic Simulator games. Yeah, that's right. Someone should do a Cyberpunk MLP fanfiction. They should. That's another thing I've always thought about. I'm like, you know, besides, you know, why ponies rather than any other property to get the brony fandom type, you know, zeitgeist out of nowhere, lightning in a bottle, that Fallout Equestria would be that thing. I mean, it could very easily have been anything else. It could have been Halo. It could have been the Elder Scrolls. It could have been a number of things. I know I still like the Upheaval. I liked that when it first started coming out, when Forest Rain started doing her readings of it, and I want to keep listening. I haven't gone back and listened to the new recordings yet, so I'm sort of like lax on that. But that's like sort of like the Game of Thrones of horse fan fiction, in my opinion. It's a very great series. Go check out the damn it, what was it called? Upheaval, Breaking Point, and then the second one was Reckoning, I think. Anyway, and so there's a lot of recorded chapters of that. Pony Scrolls. Yeah, I mean, you really never know. I'll be honest, if it were Halo instead of Fallout, I probably would have been at like this same sort of positioning within the sub-fandom. Because I was a fucking Halo junkie for years. A solid decade, basically. Between Halo 2's launch in 2004 and sort of 2014, like, you know, after Halo 4, it's kind of like, you know. So that was unfortunate. But, yeah, I mean, I read the books. I loved the Halo books, especially in high school. That was my Star Wars expanded universe. You know, you start off with all the gold standard Halo books, which are all written by Eric Nyland. And then, you know, you get into the stuff later, the Greg Bear Forerunner stuff, and it's like, okay, you know, we're taking a step down. We're like into Bethesda territory now, but oh man, the good old days. So if the ridiculous horror sub-fandom thing were Halo based, I probably would have been definitely this level of player in that as well. That would have been fun. Especially for the music. Oh my god. Halo music is still good, man. Even bad video games can have really good music. I've got all the Destiny soundtracks. Those are amazing. Destiny 2 soundtrack is really solid. I've been listening to more of that lately. I think I mentioned this when it first released. I never got that game. Luckily, that wasn't money I misplaced. But No Man's Sky, when that came out, I sampled the album because I'm like, okay, let's take a listen to this. Oof. 65 Days of Static. The No Man's Sky soundtrack album is incredible. I absolutely love it. Those Those guys, girls, did a fantastic job with that music. Whether or not you like No Man's Sky, just throw that into YouTube sometime and Google No Man's Sky soundtrack by 65 Days of Static. It is really good. It is really great for writing. I've written several chapters with that on in the background. Yes, No Man's Sky is too colorful even for ponies. And you see, that's something that would have drawn me in. I like the colorful stuff. But I already could tell from the very early trailers, despite the promises, I knew it was too open worldy. I like my games with a nice solid story. I like my rails, so to speak. I want an A, B, C directionality for my games. Like a movie plot that you play an interactive part of. And that's how all the original Halos were and everything. And even Fallout. Yeah, Fallout is like the most open world I'm acceptable of. Like, you know, there's still a main chain of events. Like, take New Vegas, for instance. You start off in Good Springs, on one corner of the map, and there's a very big debuff just north of that corner, the Quarry Junction, where you really can't get past. Like, you could speed through it if you want, but then once you get through the Death Claws, there's a bunch of people on the other side that are also several levels above you. So it's like, you have a great starting point, and then the logic of the story is this guy figuring out which motherfuckers you shot me in the head. And so then you're going down, and you talk to Victor, and you're like, who shot me in the head? And he's like, I think he went down to Prim. And you go down to Prim, and they're like, oh, maybe you should talk to the Mojave Outpost. They might have information. You go down there, go to Nipton, Novak, and then you work your way up to Boulder before getting to Vegas. You have this nice sequential system. Little by little, you're upping your levels. And what I feel bad is that Fallout 76, it looks like, you know, they planned that well. It looked like they had that main core area outside the vault that was easy level enemies, and then you scale up. But it's like, without a nice grounded story pointing you in the directions of, you know, this is tier 2, this is tier 3, this is tier 4. No one gives a shit. It's like, it's nothing to relate to. This is a fundamental misunderstanding of the property, where I get the idea of making it multiplayer, but I saw a lot of takes from people too, where it's like, just because people wanted a multiplayer Fallout game didn't mean they wanted an MMO per se. It's like, a lot of people wanted to just be able to do Fallout as they knew it, but your two companions are actual companions. They're your bros and your sisters. They're sitting on the couch next to you. That would have been awesome. You know, you have your bestest bro from college who's Boone or something. And maybe you can play the character storylines like that too. Almost like Halo, where you want a character as the Arbiter or whatever, so to speak. And then, you know, your best sister from college, she could have been Cass or whatever. And you play through the game in your characters, and you each have your own level up modes, and, you know, you can go separately and then team up back in Vegas in the middle somewhere. And you can have the same time correction adjustments that Fallout 76 makes, you know, where that becomes more of a snapping feature rather than stopping time. That would have to be a necessity in any version of multiplayer, but there's a dozen different ways they could have approached multiplayer that just would have been more fun. It would have been less broken. It would have been, like, more interesting to the core fan base, and you could still make it so people could absorb the story. All you do is, instead of the sort of conventional Fallout dialogue, you sort of, I don't know, you can make it so when you're talking to the NPC, they're only talking to one person. So if your bestest bro, Boone, engages, you know, General Oliver first, he's the one that talks to him. So then, over your voice chat or whatever, it's Boone who's like, okay, our options are be a dick to him, start shooting, or say yes, you'll go disable the gun. And then, you know, you all collectively decide, and then he answers. Almost like you're doing a huddle behind each other, and then you answer him. I don't know, it's like, I'm not a game developer, But this is the thing. It's like, you know, fan reaction is genuine. It's pure. It's like you can't argue with a fan reaction. That's like, it's kind of weird. Like, what are you gonna do? Like, guilt them into being a fan of it, or like try to logic your way into it with like, it was so funny. Like, it's so funny with some media properties that fail, and then you'll have someone, do like a 3-hour thing of like, this is why it shouldn't have actually been bad. It's like, it doesn't matter. What matters is they didn't like it. And the thing is, a lot of people might not understand why they didn't like something either. It could have been a number of things. It didn't do well. It was poorly marketed. Maybe it's a Firefly thing where it was a hatchet job from above. Maybe it was too niche, I don't know. I think of any number of TV shows where you were the only person you knew that even heard of the TV show. So even if you really loved it, there just wasn't a wider market for it to go on. And for Fallout, it's like, I don't know. It feels like a fundamental misunderstanding of why most people like Fallout games. Anyway, let me look back at the chat. I've been looking at my nice, my wallpaper backdrop is a nice panorama of things. Ooh, actually, I just realized it's a panorama of sort of idea things for Confessions 8. I should probably change that in case I accidentally hit background display. That would be bad. No spoilers. Can't have spoilers now. Now let's go with something else. Actually, no. That's a whatever, wallpaper. Anyway. Oh yeah, and that's another thing. Banning players that are trying to worm mods into it because they want to make it more fun for themselves. That's also a dick move. It's like, first of all, first of all, you know what a great PR thing Bethesda could have done? You take your Atomic shop and you cut the prices by 90% on everything. You let people buy a shitload of neat stuff. Like, that would have at least been a positive marketing play. Like, yeah, the Atomic shop as it is just this completely soulless microtransaction nonsense. And it's like, it doesn't matter if it's only aesthetic, it's still microtransaction nonsense. And it's like, well, they could have put non-aesthetic things in there too, that maybe they were like special items or whatever, but you make them relatively affordable or some, I don't fucking know. It's just the way it isn't good. That's all that matters. And it's like, obviously not all games are like that. Like, you look at some recent games like The Witcher, which everyone just loved, like, full stop. They just loved it. It was great. Everyone who are fans of the Witcher series and of other CD Projekt Red games, they just loved it, and it's perfect. And it worked. What about recent games? It's I mean, Fortnite, for what it is, I mean, Fortnite was extremely successful for whatever they were trying to do. And I just, like, I don't know. It seems like, I don't know. Again, I'm not marketing or an executive, but it's like, it seems like a lot of these things happen because you have the misplay between the executive, the business side of the entertainment and the creative side. And it seems like failure, it doesn't necessarily need to be one or the other, but for Fallout 76, it really feels like both. It feels like the creative side had a fundamental misunderstanding of why people like the Fallout games. The technical side, were in whatever time frame they had, were not able to build a structured, functional, gameplay, in anything. Like, I remember when I first pre-ordered the game, when they first announced it in May, and they immediately said beta, my thought was the Halo 3 beta, the first beta I participated in. For those of you who don't remember, about 12 years ago, there's this game called Halo 3. And they did this very ingenious way to market a game that no one had ever heard of called Crackdown. And Crackdown turned out to be really fun. I actually ended up loving that in the end. Anyway, they made it so the Halo 3 beta comes with the disc of Crackdown. So I bought Crackdown because I'm like, fuck yeah, I want to be in the Halo 3 beta. And then they got that shit going in like, I want to say April. You know, it was like a November release, sort of the standard Bungie releases November. And it happened in like April or May, sometime like mid-spring, early summer, where you've got like 5 months afterwards where it's actually a beta, where you can actually, you know, break test the game for a month, and then all the engineers and coders sit down and pull all the reports and pull all the data apart for a few months and make the corrections, and then the game goes gold, and then you push it out to players. I assumed when I pre-ordered the game in what, early June, that it was going to be like that. Like, we're going to see the beta real quick. And then when the final version of the beta was essentially just like, start playing the game 2 weeks early. Ha, ha, ha. It was like, okay, so it really wasn't a beta at all. And the clever little shitty use of the BETA was like, it's like, I don't know, like false advertisement almost. I mean, I think you could almost have a case of false advertisement in that sense. So that was shitty. And obviously they should have done it that way, because then when the final game launched and it was broken beyond repair, it's like all the goodwill is gone. Like, people so viscerally hated it that now it's getting like the Solo treatment in the Ashes of the Last Jedi or something. Yeah, that's right. Broke Thesda. Yeah, really. Here's the thing: the Atomic Shop, maybe it shouldn't have been any, like, you shouldn't be able to buy Atomic Shop points. It should have been like experience or something where you only earn it in game, so you just get money from play. But then everything's also a lot cheaper, just to speed things along a bit. You know, get everyone invested with a few handouts. You know, oh sweet, I got the the ridiculous hot pink armor for T-51, so I'm gonna walk around doing donut quotes, the whole game, or something like that. That's Donut from the Red vs. Blue series. I'm not sure if anyone remembers that anymore. I don't really follow it anymore myself, so just throwing that out there. That's right. Yeah, Crackdown was great. I'm glad there are some other educated, sophisticated horses in the chat. Oh, that's the other thing too. The guns. The limitation of levels with guns is crippling. That was another thing during my second run of the beta where second day or whatever, my second period of 4 hours with the beta, I got what was it? It was, I want to say it was like a minigun or something. Like, I stumbled on like a random loot box or something, and it was like a minigun or some kind of really good thing. And it had that level 35 next to it. And I was like, what the hell is this? And it's like, wait. So I have a thing. Like, your character, think your character is a person, and you have this thing in your possession in your hand, and you can't even use it? Are you kidding me? Like, maybe you have a scale of competency with the weapon. Like, you start off and the gun is a certain thing, and then once you reach 35, it's, 20% more accurate because you know how to hold the thing, or 10% more effective, or 35% better aim, or whatever. But the fact that you're just, you're crawling out into the open. Well, it's not even a wasteland. That's the other thing. It's not enough wasteland. I don't like the trees. I don't want to see 20 years after Chernobyl realistic Fallout. I want to see fucking Fallout 3 nuclear hellscape. So you're walking around, and of course there's like guns and shit everywhere for some reason. But you're walking around and you find a minigun on the ground, and it's got a roll of 5mm ammunition already plugged into it. And apparently a charged battery and whatnot, and you can't pick it up and pull the trigger and start shooting with it? Are you fucking kidding me? Whose idea was that? What kind of like balancing nonsense is that? It's like And so immediately I'm like, well, this is shit. I guess I'm going to sell it. But selling things is difficult enough because the carrying capacity was another incredibly frustrating thing. It's like, okay, so you can't even teleport around without it costing you caps. Where it's like, and caps were scarce already. It was damn hard to start finding a certain amount of caps. And it's just like one thing after another piled on until I was at the point of like, I don't care. I just don't care. And I didn't go back. I really, like, I had to have a conversation with myself. Like I was, like I was the old cartoons where you're talking with the angels on your shoulder, the angel and demon, and they both are obsessed with the old Fallout games. And they're both like, this isn't fun. Like my inner id, my inner college student was like, bro, this isn't New Vegas. This sucks. Why would we play this if we're not enjoying this? And I'm like, you're right. Why would I play this if I'm not enjoying this? I'm just going to go back to writing and then go start up a new game of New Vegas. That sounds way more fun. And it was. It was way more fun. Your dick has to be this big to use. Yeah, that is one of nature's debuffs, isn't it? Cannot use dick until you're this level, level 12 or so, 13, 10 if you're an early starter. Minigun is useless in Fallout. Yeah, unless you're like playing a modded like playthrough like in Fallout 4. That was the one really solid good idea they did, was console mods for Fallout 4. I know, of course, they like janked it up and kind of like screwed with the actual modders and whatnot, but of the mods that made it into their, their gated community of Fallout 4 console mods, I really loved it because then I could have mods on console that I knew how to use, because I'm still incapable of getting Nexus mods to work, and I've tried several times, and it's just like, it's too hard. I'm sick of the experimentation to see what folder directories I have to drop shit in to make it work. Or it's like, okay, we're going to try reinstalling Mod Manager. Oh, look, it still didn't work. Okay, uninstall the whole game. Normally, the only place finding ammo for it would be military bases. That's right. Level 18 is the only way you're really allowed to use your unlocked energy. Level weapons are a joke. A level 45 combat shotgun with higher tier mods on, but the level 25 combat shotgun already does more damage with lower tier mods. Yeah, that's the other thing too. That was like Fallout 4 special guns also were like kind of fucked up. It's like some of them had an interesting like buff on them, but then some of them it's like it wasn't interesting at all. It just sort of had the goofy star on it for like no reason, and it didn't really feel like it was significantly different. Like even Fallout 3, you pick up the terrible shotgun or Annabelle or something, and it felt significantly better than the normal versions of those guns. But I don't know, Fallout 4, I never really felt that. Even the models weren't really any different, which was another kind of lame thing. It's like you like special guns for the same reason you like shiny Pokemon. You want it to look shiny. You want it to look different, Give me my fucking sparkly red Gyarados. Big, red, sparkly-ass Gyarados in the middle of the lake. That's pretty. It looks great in your Pokédex. But Fallout 4, and you've got all these display racks for guns in Fallout 4 too, and it's like, you can't take off the gun, and it has like, let's say the ridiculous rainbow paint job, like the, what was the faction in Nuka World? The Primals, the Herd, whatever they were called, the animal, the isn't that a weird sub apocalypse thing that's been happening for a while? It's like you had was it Rust 2 with the with the Andrew WK commercial, and now you've got the new Far Cry game that has that same sort of spray paint wasteland feel. It's like, I kind of get it. It is kind of a neat aesthetic, but it's also limiting. It feels too much like a blend of two separate aesthetics. Like the glow in the dark spray paint thing, that works really well in cyberpunk science fiction, because in cyberpunk science fiction everything's dark. Everything is like Night City or Blade Runner, where you've got this constant heavy smog, you know, literally darkening the world. So then spraying your bright fluorescent yellow green, you know, your thing up there, it looks neat. But in like bright sunlight in like a desert sand kind of wasteland, it doesn't work. It's a weird blending that doesn't quite work for me. I think the best raider gang in Nuka World was probably the really like psychotic ones. What were they? The disciples, or whatever the fuck they call themselves. Where they were just like totally crazy bloodthirsty. Where like, oh yes, we've eaten them, and you know you'll be flayed and chopped into a million little pieces, and we'll serve you. You know, it's like. At least that was interesting. That was like in Raider canon, but maybe stepped up to another level too. Maybe less. It actually felt slightly less cartoony. Maybe that was only because of the contrast with the herd, or whatever they were called, the pack. I think it was the pack. But yeah, it didn't do it for me. I'll be honest. As soon as I played Nuka World, I'm like, I bet I could have a more interesting like Raider dynamic. You know, I tried anyway for the mercenary. So I'm like, okay, we got this volcanic wasteland for our dragon boys. And so what would Raider factions in a volcanic area be? All right, first of all, you'd have the LARPers. So you have the Smoke Devils, who are just like, yeah, man, volcanoes. This is like, they're like fucking Team Magma from Pokemon, where they're just like, volcanoes are our thing, man. We got the fire and the smoke and shit. Yeah. I'm like, okay, that's a good faction. And then what's a good faction? Okay, let's bring in a different race. Let's bring in some Griffins. And Griffins, you know, they fly, so they can build things like higher up, so the Smoke Devils can't quite get to them. They can stay almost on like separated ground, so to speak. And it's like, okay, that's neat. Why would the Griffins be there? Oh, of course, like any Griffin would be there. They're looking for some kind of lost city of treasure. That makes sense. So it's like, okay, they have a staging location to try to fly and find, you know, the El Dorado, the Magnificent in the volcanic wasteland. Okay, and then we bring in the Great Arrows, and that's a nice thing too. Rust Devils. Yeah, what was Rust Devils from? That was from, I'm trying to remember what property that's from. Anyway, Far Cry 5 was based on a real event, except that they showed would have happened. Oh yeah, I mean, there's lots of cults. I mean, you know, obviously there's lots of cults out there, like Branch Davidian and stuff, but Heaven's Gate. Yeah, you know, cults are always fun. My impression, though, at least as someone from the outside, I've never played a Far Cry game, but it seems like Far Cry 2 did really well, where it was the island, or was that 3? And then Far Cry 4 with the Himalayan guy is like, what is that, like an exotic like mountainous South Asian country, with the dictator guy. That seemed interesting, and like a lot of people liked it. It really seemed like after that, though, it kind of fell off. Like they had that Far Cry Primal, which was like no one really played. Like I saw even less information about that than what was the one that was like damn it. What was the one with the redhead where it was like robotic dinosaurs? Horizon Zero Dawn. Like I actually saw like a presence online of Horizon Zero Dawn, but it was like Far Cry Primal came and then disappeared in like an instant. And then it's like, I don't know, it seemed like 5 came and went also, and this New Dawn probably the same. So I don't know. It seems like they're kind of spinning wheels now. Yeah, Obsidian, it really feels like the new Outer Worlds. It looks very Borderlands to me. It looks like they're going in a much more jokey direction than even the classical Fallout games. So we'll see what happens. I mean, Borderlands has kind of disappeared too, so maybe they'll be able to recapture a market and bring in lost Fallout fans and lost Borderlands fans and just generic people that love RPGs. And I think it's going to be a hit no matter what, because every other studio has really been fucking up their RPGs lately. So it's like Borderlands is going to come in and do great. Or sorry, Outer Worlds is going to come in and do really great, at least at the beginning. And then we see, you know, longevity if people like the game, like the story, like the concept, and want to keep going with it. And then Cyberpunk 2077, same thing. It's going to hit hard and bright, and then we'll see what kind of longevity it has to it. Like, I really think Fallout 3 was big, and it was good, and I did love it. But New Vegas sealed the deal. You know what I'm saying? Like, Fallout 3, like, it was really great, and it established, like, the new Fallout series. But then New Vegas was like taking wrought iron and then getting steel out of it. It was, you know, a Bessemer process. It was the blast furnace of, okay, this is the best version of this new kind of game that we can make. And that really solidified the fandom then for a good 5 years until Fallout 4 came and, you know, go from there. Oh, that's right. Far Cry 3 Blood Dragon. I did buy Blood Dragon, but I actually didn't finish it. Like, I enjoyed Blood Dragon for what it was. Like, it was a neat, colorful, poppy 80s, you know, kind of experience. But it just wasn't for me. I'll be honest, the gameplay was the limiter. I was not good at it. I was getting my ass kicked, so I couldn't enjoy the game. It was too hard. It was too hard. Like, as I've said before, I'm really not a gamer. I'm not good at video games. So it's like, I want to play on baby mode without the game making fun of me for it. I just want to enjoy the game for the comedy and the story and the gunplay without feeling like I have to, like, chug and grind like it's Dark Souls. A lot of games are Dark Souls for me. I'm just not good. So I'm trying to think, like, my peak being a gamer, epic gamer, was probably mid Halo 3, like the end of high school. Yeah, the end of high school. Like, my senior year, the way our class system worked, I got out way early, like 1:30 every day. So I could get homework done, and really, I didn't have a lot to do. It was like I'd already done all the important high school classes, so it was like, you know, burning things out with, like, psychology and photography or whatever. So, got homework done. I could really, like, just play some online matchmaking. And I got decently good at Halo 3 matchmaking. I was like a sergeant or lieutenant or something. But and then, you know, and then that was about it. And then when I started college, I tried to develop a bigger social life also, which was, it worked for a while. And so I just didn't devote time to Halo and fell off after that. Yeah, and of course, I'm talking relative, you know, the new Fallout games, of course. I never played 1 or 2, so I don't know. I know how significantly different they are than those games, but I don't have that as a reference point for myself, so I'm just putting that out there. I recognize the story, though, because, especially in the original Fallout Equestria, you look at how much of the lore, you know, is very much like, you know, very much ported over from those early Fallout games, you know, from K-Cat, lovely K-Cat, where, like the Master, you know, the Master becoming the goddess, and etc. Yeah. Now it's the 1 hour 30 mark. Okay. We made it a good way. Today was a good day. What was my favorite aspect of Fallout Equestria? I mean, I think, 1 second. Yeah. I think the obvious answer for everyone is the world, right? I think that is of everything else, the crowning achievement, the systemic functional success of Fallout Equestria is because K-Cat as a world builder was able to somehow combine these completely disparate properties in a functional way. I think that's really the success of it more than anything. It's similar to I'd compare it to like Star Wars or Firefly in the sense that later science fiction properties that combined the concept of space as an unconquered frontier with the Old West feel and aesthetic, like Tatooine. It's sort of a light example. Obviously, Firefly is the more pronounced example of this, but the concept of you take that core sort of philosophical like world element of just like the Old West, which was endless unconquered country with great mountains and snowy terrain and Indian tribes and buffalo and exotic animals and big open empty deserts. Creating analogs between those and the vast vacuum of space and harsh, planetary storms and stuff was good for all the authors that really, first did that in like starting in that time period. And so I'd say what K.A. Cat did was somehow combine that cutesy, the honest, I don't know, emotional nature of colorful magical ponies and connect that to all of the zany sci-fi, fantasy. I think that's where a lot of the more solid connections come from, is the more fantastical Fallout elements are like the keys. Those are the bonding points between My Little Pony and the Fallout universe. You think a lot of things in Fallout are very magical and fantastical. Like, without, what's that asshole that goes through all the Fallout stuff and it's like, here's why Stimpaks could never work in real life. It's like, no shit. Of course none of this stuff could ever work in real life. It's all magical, fantastical. Yes, we know that rapid reproduction of cells would not only cause a lot of frictional heating on a microscopic level, but that there would be no quick and efficient way of removing the waste cells without, like, your skin exploding or whatever the fuck. Those videos are so pretentious. But because some of those elements are accepted by suspension of disbelief, that they have a magical quality too of instantly fast traveling, of magical heal-all potions. Because again, a lot of these in the RPG sense were concepts that were invented for like Dungeons and Dragons. It's swords and magic storytelling, but with a sci-fi veneer, which I like. Because I can't fucking stand medieval crap. And so, but that happened way before the Fallout series. Especially, there are plenty of RPGs like Warhammer 40K and stuff before the Fallout series was a thing. But anyway, those latent fantastical elements were then, those were the points where you could glue ponies into Fallout. And so it was almost like a double wrapping. It's like you took the core of what fantasy storytelling was, and then you had like your sci-fi Fallout, fantastical Cold War, nuclear, whatever, outer layer, and then you put a new pony layer over it with, like, I don't know, drilled holes back to the core fantasy. And so you ended up with this perfect synthesis of the world properties. And that's what I think is the ultimate success of Fallout Equestria as a thing. If you're talking about a more individual story point, like what did you like about Fallout Equestria specifically as a narrative, then obviously it's Steel Hooves. Obviously it's the Apple Snack, Apple Jack connection. I mean, that's like the main storyline, she's like one of the prime movers of all of the elements in terms of the invention of these armors and mystery of war, and she almost gets assassinated, and it's, her relationship to Steel Hooves, and then him becoming this living ghoul embodiment of Pink Cloud and all that, and it's like, it was always Steel Hooves and Applejack for me. That was a time especially when I really loved Applejack. It's like, of course, all the ministries, they play their part. The overall narrative, the narratizing of each character, giving them all a realistic, functional purpose with a Fallout analog, Ministry of Peace, and Ministry of Image and all that. being propaganda arm, Ministry of Morale and whatnot. That all was very well done also, but those are all a subgrouping of synthesizing the fantasy nuclear, Cold War hellscape into ponies. So there's my general thesis. Hopefully I get an A. You put me in, coach. Yeah, we'll just repost this as a TED Talk. Everyone please clap. Yeah, the nostalgia. Yeah, that was it for me too, because I really got into Fallout in early 2009 after Fallout 3 came out, and so it's like it was a good 2 years before Pony for me. So I had like 2 solid years of Fallout investment, and then I had 2 years of early brony fandom invested into me when I finally listened to Fallout Equestria. So it was a nice warm fuzzy feeling inside. Let me see here. An early version of stim packs for animals instead of people because of heart problems and stuff. Well, it's like, yeah, I mean, the realistic version of stim packs or whatever is speeding up cell, replacement, reproduction, mitosis, and solving the telomere problem. If you get cells to stop, withering away the telomeres after a while, then you effectively you evolve past aging, and then there's more subtle aging problems that might come into play. Like, I've heard one theory that things like Alzheimer's and stuff are just byproduct. The reason they're more common these days are just byproducts of people living longer. Like, in the old days, just not enough people lived to such an age where you would notice it. Like, several hundred years ago, people still made it to 70 or 80 or 90, but they were a lot fewer, and more likely than not, they were part of some upper elite caste. So if their mind was unraveling, maybe in the context of like a religious like institution or cult or whatever, that gets translated to visions or whatever. So it was a lot less clear about, early onset dementia or things in those days. Now, the ultimate deep lore with K-Cat is I want to... Obviously, everyone wants to know who she is, because I want to know what other stuff she ends up doing after this. I want to know what real-world books out there that she's also written or whatever on Amazon. And, I think, honestly, they wouldn't quite be the same. I think it'd be the Orson Welles problem of you have Citizen Kane, and then there's the other stuff. And it's like, it's not a slight per se, but although the comparison could be the Shyamalan problem of you make one really super good thing, and then everything after that is just okay. It doesn't happen at that same lightning bolt moment where it can take off like a wildfire. The L Train has mentioned this in the past before. It's like, and it's really true. A lot of success is just chance. It really is just the right people coming together at the right place at the right time. And then the key players involved just grab the opportunity. Like gumption is involved. Like, creativity and efforts of people are involved. But it's like, it really, a lot of right place and right time. I always remember a Woody Allen quote. As someone, I don't really follow Woody Allen's work or a fan or whatever. But he had a quote about like 85% of success is just showing up. And I really took that to heart a lot of my life, because yeah, a lot of it is just, you show up for class, and then you hear the teacher, talk at you about Riemann sums for 45 minutes, and then you leave. But you do 2 weeks of that, and it's like, okay, I guess I know enough about Riemann sums that I can pass a test on them, and then immediately forget about them and move on to the next class. Yeah, so that's a quote that definitely influenced me. Another one too, Stephen King quote about ideas. It's not a perfect example, but like he had a point of like, you don't necessarily have to write ideas down, because the good ideas will stay with you, and then the bad ideas or maybe not stay with you. I think she said the good ideas will keep coming back and the bad ideas will disappear. So it's like, it was sort of, I think it was when he was being asked by a reporter or interviewer or something about like, do you have like a notebook by your bed when you sleep? You wake up in the middle of the night and you're thinking like, Tommy Knockers, that's a good name. I'm going to write down Tommy Knockers. And he said something in his own way of like, no, you don't really have to do that. It's just a good idea is going to come to you and it's going to keep coming back to you. If you have really good word like Tommy Knockers, you're going to keep thinking up Tommy Knockers and it's going to be perfect. And I've sort of taken a test approach to that. I do write things down. When I have some kind of idea where I'm like, I really don't want to lose that, I do have a master like concepts document, so to speak, where I write those ideas down. But in a lot of ways that is true also, where the best ideas keep coming around because when you go through the thought process of A, B, C, you're like, okay, you have this character in this setting, and I know I want to get them to this point eventually. And your mind, a lot of it's like processing power. A lot of it is just your mind chugging over what would be the most fun idea to get from A to B. What is the best, most scenic route, and also is it fast enough? Are you getting the right amount of seeing the trees, and also it's not going to take 4 hours, so to speak, for that route. And that really is what it comes down to. It's system level thinking. This is why I think a lot of people end up liking authors, not necessarily for a certain property, but because of a way they write. This is more very specifically talking about authors, like written or spoken word. It's sort of an approach. It's their style, their voice, the author's voice. I think that's why people come back for Stephen King's or what are other authors out there? I mean, you could say things like J.K. Rowling or Lucas, but it's also mostly the one property, so it's kind of a gray area. But for me, my example is Michael Crichton. I've read most of his bibliography, and of course, none of them are in the same universe, except for kind of Jurassic Park and the Lost World, which is already kind of like, you can feel that he was like convinced to write the Lost World. It's not remotely as good as the original, but there's sort of that same general set of ideas, that same sort of voice, that same amount of action or excitement to it, with the right kind of other stuff mixed in. It's the author's voice, and in a very technical way, I think that's the kind of like those are the kind of things people grab to because they're familiar with that system and they like the way it unfolds. I think what'll happen eventually, I think once Pony dies down for a while, and even once Fallout Equestria has like died down for a while, eventually K-Cat will probably reveal herself. Eventually. Or, most likely it'll get leaked somehow. Someone will stumble upon it and then put it on the /MLP board and a link to her other works, and everyone will be like, oh my god, it is K-Cat. That's the most realistic version of it probably coming out. But otherwise, I have to applaud. He's done a damn good job of internet anonymity. That's very, very hard to do these days. I can't think of a lot of people where they were able to maintain perfect internet anonymity, especially people where a lot of people are trying to find out who they are. There's K-Cat, and then there's like the opposite side of the spectrum with like a Mr. Medicare or something. But anyway, it is something to behold, and I definitely respect that. Of course, it does make it hard to communicate. You can't easily like email or whatever. You have to use shitty IRC forums or the FimFiction accounts, but that's fine. It's just fine. Left enough nice comments on videos of mine that I really don't care. When Gen 5 comes out, write another Fallout Equestria. I doubt that. I think she hasn't written any more Fallout Equestria for the same reason that, honestly, Sombra somber, you should probably stop writing Fallout Equestria also, is the idea that you don't wanna screw up the second half. Like, there's already a lot of Project Horizons fans that are like, yeah, after the chapter 35 point, you can tell there's sort of the shift in the writing or whatnot, where it's like, I don't know, maybe somber is a different thing, because the original Fallout Equestria was written in such a condensed but voluminous period between, you know, March 2011 or May 2011 and December 2011, where it's like it was basically all out before everyone then really started getting solidly into it. I know there was a few people like Dr. Dissonance, for instance, who was already following it during the writing. So you look at some of his earliest tracks, and they are in the middle of it. I think, what was it? Like, his first music package of Fallout Equestria is like, I want to say October, which would have been right after, like, the halfway point when you're in, like middle goddess territory, where they're, like, headed toward, damn it, what is the place called? Silent, whatever, you know, the Chixie Lab, where Twilight dies and stuff. Damn it, I can't remember it now. What were we talking about? Oh, yeah, K-Cat. Yeah, I would think she's not going to do another Fallout Equestria, because why would you intentionally, like, try to one-up yourself? You're only going to be let down. Like, there's no way people are going to like it as much, in any sense. I just, like, I mean, sometimes people can. Sometimes you can have a, it's very rarely the same person, though. I feel like the very small number, for instance, of sequels that are better than the original, it's not because of that same author doing something exactly the same as the original, but better. It's more often than not because other players came involved, and so the essential chemistry of the sequel evolved in such a way that the audience was evolving or responding to. You know, the great philosophical dynamic between artist and artwork and art appreciator. And very, very few things have struck that. Like, you know, there's The Empire Strikes Back as the classical example, or Godfather 2, for instance. But more often than not, it's an Aliens, where the reason it was so different but much more beloved is because a different creative brought a different kind of creative spin to it. So you had your Ridley Scott's Alien, and then those raw elements were taken and re-expressed through James Cameron in Aliens. And so he took the horror essential elements and he added in a much heavier action approach to it in a way that worked. Oh yeah, and if K-Cat wrote anything else, it would also invalidate all the other sub-fanfics that are built on top of it. That is another big problem, where, yeah, you know, almost every Fallout Equestria story is built, you know, on that groundwork. So everything is canon with her, hopefully, for the most part. Like me, you know, we try as hard as we can. I don't think we've officially broken canon anywhere, but, you know, there's probably little points where people could try to nitpick. Wait, did the stream stop? Wait, hold on. It says we're still going. Yeah, I think we're still going. Okay. DMing skills. Oh, that's great. Yeah, D&D is always great. I know I tried actually doing roleplay, like classical roleplay, like D&D once. I was not very good at it. I'll be honest, like, I don't know, the approach for me, the, like, again, everything is systems. The actual, like, the setting of the D&D game, it just didn't work for me. It was too, I don't know, it was, slow isn't quite the right word, but slow is the closest word I would choose, whereas, like, you're sort of operating at the same, you're all operating at the pace of the slowest player, because the essence of D&D, unless you have a very, I don't know, I guess probably a very good dungeon master that can keep the game flowing at a good rate, or keep everyone up on a good pace, it just it was too slow for me. I really didn't like it. Obviously, from this 2-hour live stream of nonstop monologuing, you could tell that I like to operate at my own pace for the most part, and it just I don't know. It didn't do it for me. It just didn't do it for me. However, I have done things like that in the past. I did a proto D&D kind of thing. This is oh man. Speaking of decade ago, this would have been a decade ago in high school, where Wayback Machine, where I had a class. It was sort of like it's just sort of an elective. It was like a fill time class where it's like I had something at 4th period and I had something at 6th period, but I didn't have anything that fit into 5th period, so I just picked like a nothing, almost like a study hall. And so a lot of us would group together in that study hall and just kind of BS, like waste time. And amongst those BSing sessions, we had sort of a proto D&D thing going, an overarching character narrative thing going, and it was almost a great improv session over the course of like 4 weeks of I guess I'd imagine something like what goes on in like the writing room for a video game or something, where you're working out a grand narrative, you're working out characters and players and setting and things like that. And so it was a really nice thought experiment and a way to kill time for that period of time for a couple of weeks. But actual proper D&D, I don't know. It never clicked for me. Oh yeah, Diesel Punk World War thing. Yeah, no, that is definitely a present subgenre of all those things. I know there was a series of books. What was it, Leviathan? I think where it was like the Darwinian, like evolution based like British technology versus like the machinery based like German or continental technology. That seemed like an interesting series. I never actually read them or listened to them, but it seemed neat. I liked. I mean, in a lot of ways, Fallout is sort of a diesel punk story. I mean, I guess diesel wouldn't. Maybe atomic punk would be a more proper term for it, but a lot of the analogs have a very diesel punk feel to them, especially in terms of the look of some of the cars and stuff. Anyway, I guess we're approaching the 2-hour point, and I think I've run out of things to talk about. To be honest, I might call it a day, and yeah, Atom Punk, it would be a subset of Diesel Punk. Yeah, I agree with that for sure. It's like it's all the various punks. We have so many punks. Cyberpunks, diesel punks, steamy punks, pony punks. Oh god. You know what? I would call Mad Max one of the sort of essential diesel punk type things. Especially in the pursuit of gasoline. You know, the whole world revolves around them controlling and finding gasoline or sources of gasoline. So I definitely would think that Mad Max is one of, not the, but one of the more quintessential and best known kinds of diesel punk. Yeah, so if anyone has any questions for these last 2 minutes, now's the time. Lightning session. Lightning bolt. Otherwise, I'm gonna go make some dinner, and probably write some more later too. Yeah, I was on a good roll. We're hitting a really great middle of Act 2 part of the story with our heroine, so it's gonna be pretty great. She's on heroin. No, but she's on something, that's for sure. High on life. What other punks are there? Now I'm just thinking about what are the other variations of punk for technology. I know one thing I'm hoping comes back later on too is sort of like classical space sci-fi, like John Carter of Mars. That sort of fantastical, like, you know, or not Orson Welles. Damn it. The other guy, the time machine guy, the War of the Worlds guy. That kind of sci-fi to come back. I really love that turn of the century aesthetic of science fiction. It's really neat and it's very underappreciated. It really needs like a Matrix, like sort of what the Matrix did for like sci-fi concepts in terms of like really striking that into the public masses again. We needed something like that for that kind of spacey sci-fi to strike again. And I feel like that's what Disney were kind of trying to do for John Carter of Mars, but it just wasn't executed right. It sat in the oven too long and it got overcooked and burnt, and only people that really liked it. And everyone else was like, what the fuck was that? I couldn't understand any of the names. Those aliens were weird looking. When is the next group podcast? That is something. Who knows? Ooh, I like that. Biopunk. What would Biopunk be? Is that like Bioshock? I would think Bioshock would be like a subset of Diesel Punk, but Biopunk, maybe. Also, whatever the hell you would classify as Bioshock Infinite as. I guess that would kind of be steampunk, but it's also like trans-dimensional? So multi-dimensional steampunk? I don't know. That was something else. Static punk is interesting. I'd like to know what static punk would be. Would that be like proto-cyberpunk? Would that be like, what would a static punk kind of thing be? I don't know. Like cyberpunk, but without like the digital internet like stuff where everything is just like electricity. I don't know. That's neat. I gotta Google the other punks, the other subgenres of science fiction that are not expressed enough in greater pop culture. Because we gotta bring them back. Gotta get the team back together. I'm just glad that cyberpunk is back. I always liked that. You know. Probably it does go back to the Matrix. You think of things too like RoboCop is like tertiary cyberpunk, or a lot of those late 80s movies actually. Late 80s, early 90s, like what was it called? Another Philip K. Dick. Total Recall. Especially the original Total Recall has a very cyberpunk sort of feel to it. Anyway, okay, so that was fun. Nice little BananaCast. Talked about all of the nuclear powered content on the way. Amazing stuff. Brand new symphonic battle opera, even bigger than before, and even bigger than the second one. It's gonna be bigger than both of them combined. That's almost for sure at this point. And we got the biggest episode of Confessions on the way. Oh, so we're halfway done, though. We know that much. ETA June. We have a bigger than ever documentary on the rise and fall of stable tech with lovely animation by Wubbly Dubbly or something. Also, estimated time of release, probably June-ish. So summer's going to be packed. More Wasteland Survival Guides on the way. Hopefully we'll be making it to Everfree Northwest and BabsCon again this year. It'll be really fun to see everyone. And then, what else? Oh, Terminal Secrets finale. We're just waiting on some stuff that will hopefully be within the next month or two. Hopefully. We're going to say February, March timeframe. It always, the approach we take is we want to make sure it's done. Good and done rather than on time is always better. Look at Fallout 76. You don't want it on time. You want it good and done. And that's what we strive for. Only the highest quality nuclear horse related content. So, thank you everyone for joining us. We will talk to you again, hopefully with a much larger cast. We want to get Oakart back. We want to get the whole band back together. We'll have a new, good, full break room podcast again with everyone, hopefully. The others have to take initiative too. Bother them to try to work out a time to work with all of us too. But otherwise, thank you for joining me on another fantabulous BananaCast.